He was a giant in the world of music. His trademark rich baritone voice brought to life such hits as Crazy Arms, You're the Best Thing That Ever Happened to Me, and For the Good Times. Yes, Ray Price will be missed. But his mark on country music and the music landscape of America will never be forgotten. To pay homage to such a man, we here at Country's Family Reunion felt it was time to gather together some of his best friends, country music greats themselves, to share stories and songs about the great Ray Price. And you know what? Of course, they all wanted to come. Hosted by Bill Anderson and Ray's wife, Janie, this celebration of the life of Ray Price is a treasure. Welcome to Country's Family Reunion, tribute to Ray Price.
Special family reunion as we remember the man and the music, the legend and the legacy of the man that touched everybody in this room in one way or another, the great Ray Price. You know, a lot of times when we do our family reunions, we get out the word that we're going to record a show, and we start calling people and asking them to come. And everybody wants to come. There's never an occasion when people don't want to, but their schedules sometimes don't allow them to. This time, they heard we were going to do the Ray Price tribute. They started calling us. Everybody wanted to be a part of this, and what a wonderful testimony that is. I am seated next to Miss Janie Price, the longtime wife and now, unfortunately, the widow of the great Ray Price. Janie, it's so good to have you. Thank you so much for doing this. And you told me before you were nervous. Don't be nervous. Look out there. You're among friends.
Well, thank you for that. I am nervous, but I'm so pleased to be here, and I want to thank everyone for coming out and being a part of this. I looked across the faces of this room, and I see all of Ray's old friends, and it just thrills my heart, and it does make me feel like I've come to a family reunion.
Good. Well, you have. You said that Ray told you, I guess maybe not long before he passed away or when he was ill, that when he was gone, you were going to be the connection between him and his fans.
Yes, he told me that. He said, when I'm not here any longer, Janie, you're going to have to be the one to step out and let people touch you, and you're going to be the closest thing to me that they will be able to reach. I did not understand what he meant by that until I finally was able to get out of the house after about 6 months and start letting the fans meet me, and I just felt the love that all of these fans had for Ray, and I finally understood what he meant.
Yeah. You learned to sign autographs?
Can you believe that I have been asked to sign autographs? I can't believe it. I can't believe it. Yes, I have, but I can't believe it.
You got to work on a real fancy signature.
Well, I need to practice. I can tell you that.
You'll get plenty of practice. I promise you that. You and Ray were married for how many years?
43 years, wow. 6 months, and 8 days.
But who's counting?
That's
How did you meet?
Ray and I was modeling in Dallas, and we met through a mutual friend of ours.
Was it love at first sight?
Absolutely. It was beyond that. It was like these beautiful stars you have here in the background. I was just looking at those, and I thought, that's what happened the day I met Ray Price.
Stars came out.
The stars came out, and the fireworks started.
So like his old song, you let the stars get in your eyes?
Yeah, it happened. It happened immediately.
Well, that's a wonderful, wonderful story that it was like that. But Ray, at this point, now this would have been what year? I don't do math real good.
I met Ray in 1968.
Okay, so his career, he was already almost 20 years into his career then at that point.
Absolutely.
Because he started, I think, in the late 1940s, at least on radio and everything like that. Didn't make records quite that soon, I don't think. Had you kept up with him all these years? Did you know the history of Ray Price?
Well, that's another strange thing. I honestly did not know who he was. When I met Ray, I had no clue who he was. Ray, we were introduced by his road manager. He and his Buck Fowler and his wife and Neve and I had become friends, and Buck used to travel around as they did back in those days. They always had live musicians at all of these parties and functions that I would be attending, and that's how I had met Buck. And I was working as a model in Dallas, and I was doing, H.L. Hunt had just launched his new line of tomatoes. As we all know, famous tomatoes today. Well, I held the first can of tomatoes. And, and they had chosen me, I did hand modeling also, and they had chosen me to hold those cans of tomatoes. And I can always remember I was there working with a wonderful photographer by the name of Alphonse Simon from Belgium. Everyone in the modeling business would go, he was a very famous photographer. And his wife came in and said, Janie, you have a phone call from someone. And I said, well, okay, who is it? And they said, well, I had no clue who this was. And so I went in and I had a conversation with him, and he asked me, he said, would you please come and meet with me? And I've got someone in town tonight that I want you to meet, and I think you would like him. And I know you're trying to get into the music business, and you're singing and playing your guitar, and I think that he could help you. And of course, back in those days, we never said no to anyone or any opportunity. And so I met them, and I walked into this. They had adjoining rooms at this hotel in Fort Worth, and I walked in, and I had brought my little guitar, and country girl, ignorant, not knowing the right thing to do. I just picked up my guitar and I started playing. And Ray Price walked in this other room, and he said, well, maybe you'd like to do it this way, hon. And he picked that guitar up, and he said, he picked it, and he embraced that guitar, and I can still remember seeing him, and he strummed that guitar, and whatever little song I was singing, he sang that song, and that was the end of my singing and my guitar playing. I never touched the guitar again.
But you really did not know who he was?
I had no clue who he was. I did not know who he was.
Okay, so when and how did you find out?
Well, that night.
Did he say, I'm Ray Price, or did somebody?
He told me who he was, but it didn't click. It just didn't click. And so I rode down in the back seat with Buck. I was in the back, and Ray and Fontenot. Cedric Fontenot was his driver. He was also his hairdresser. Now, Bill Mack's going to remember the days of the pompadour hairdos. Well, that's what Fontenot traveled with Ray and did his hairstyles for him. And so... Well, I didn't tell you about the first time we met. I'm telling you about the second time we met. You didn't ask me about the first time, Bill.
Well, let's go back to the first time.
Well, the first time that we had met is Ray was in Dallas, and I was working a show out at the Marriott in the Conquistador room. And I had pulled my little Chevy up and parked it in front of his room, pulled up. And as I started to get out, open the door, I looked through the mirror. I looked through my window of my car, and I looked right. This person was this guy, and was having his hair done, and I saw Ray's. He was facing the mirror inside. I saw the back of his head, and then I'm seeing this through the windshield of my car. And as I started to step out, I just sat back down and looked, because our eyes met in that window. And it was just this magic. I thought, oh my God, he's handsome. Of course, his hair's standing straight up. And so he hopped up out of his seat, and he was brushing his hair back, and he'd come running out the door, and he said, hi. And I said, hi. And so I just walked on. I was embarrassed. I walked on in and did my show. He did whatever he'd come to the town to do that day. He was playing golf with someone. And we didn't never see each other again. And so I went on and did my show. He went on and did what he did. So now it comes to the second meeting.
Okay, now we're in the car.
Now we're in the car. Now we're back in the car, and I'm in the back seat with Buck Fowler, and all this time he's looking at me in that rearview mirror. He's looking at me in the back seat with that rearview mirror, and I'm thinking, I know this man. I've seen this man someplace before, and he's giving me that look, You know the look. And so...
No, can't say that I do.
And so just about halfway down, Fontenot turned to Ray. Ray turned to Fontenot, and at the same time, Fontenot said, she's that chick, man, she's that chick. And Ray said, oh my God, she's that girl. And he opened up his glove box and he pulled out this envelope, and he had written the make and model of my car, the license plate number of my car, my description. Yes, he had. And the day that he had met me in Dallas, the day he had seen me, and he said, you know how many times I came back to the Marriott and drove through this parking lot hoping I'd be able to see you.
Oh. Wow. Now, how much time elapsed between the first
Just
time
a few months, a few months.
Just a few months.
And it was in that moment I realized, oh my God, he's that guy that I saw the stars went off. And so I rode, that was the night I met Bill Mack and Cindy. I rode down to Wichita Falls, and I was on the stage there, at the side of the stage with his first concert that I'd ever witnessed. And I thought, my God, this man's got a beautiful voice. Besides all the other perfect things about him. And so that's when I realized that I actually didn't realize who he was. I guess I just really wasn't. I'm from Nacogdoches, and from the suburbs of Nacogdoches. And so I was a country girl, and we didn't have a lot of music and that sort of thing around our house, so I really honestly did not know who he was.
But you spent the next 43 years of your life figuring it out and finding out who he was. Well, he gave us some of the greatest music of all time, and we're going to do something a little unusual today. We're going to start and go through Ray's career chronologically. We're not going to be able to hit every song that he ever did, but we're going to start all the way back in 1952 when Ray was going through his Hank Williams period, when he was singing real hard and real high and trying to sound a lot like Hank Williams, who was, of course, one of his great influences. Our buddy Jim Lauderdale's going to start off with an old Ray Price song with our great Country's Family Reunion Band. Jim's going to sing the old song called Talk to Your Heart, Mr. Jim Lauderdale.
When you're alone at night with the world locked outside, have a talk to your heart about me. And if you're told that it's right, be apart, then let me come in and talk to your heart. Open your heart and let me come in. And if you're told that it's right that we stay apart, then let me come in and talk to your heart. Haven't you changed my life in just one day? So talk to your heart, and what does it say? If you're told that it's right that we stay apart, then let me come in and talk to your heart. Remember, my own is waiting outside. Yes, it's waiting outside, alone in the dark. So let me come in and talk to your heart.
Great job, Jim. Jim Lauderdale. A great old Ray Price song. All right, now catch me up. You've met now, and we found out who we are. How long before it gets serious and you start courting and thinking about getting married?
Well, Bill, it was serious. That Ray Price was a very serious man. He never wasted any time. And so, of course, I rode home in the back seat with him that night. And so that was the last time we ever were separated.
And you got married how much later?
Got married in June 11th of 1970.
Did he go back in those days? You say you did not know much about who he was and his history and all, and I touched on the fact that he was largely influenced by Hank Williams. He and Hank Williams used to live together, I think, in a house here in Nashville when they were both bachelors. Did he ever talk much about Hank? And if so, what did he say?
Oh, he loved Hank Williams. Ray talked to me about everything that ever happened in his career. I'm so thrilled to look around the room and see all these people. I know an awful lot about a lot of people here in this room that he told me about. And so he did talk, and he talked about you. He talked about everyone. You know, when Ray left Nashville in 1969, he wanted to move back home because he was a Texan, and he wanted to be back near his family, and he wanted to start a horse ranch, a thoroughbred horse ranch, which he did. But he talked to me about he never left Nashville. He never left country music, and country music was in his heart. And he never stopped loving traditional country music. And he loved Hank Williams. He loved all of the people who are part of this wonderful heritage that is ours. He was friends with all those people. Then he was buddies, not just friends. He was buddies with these guys.
Well, he may have moved back to Texas, but he continued to come here and record. He was booked out of here, I think, and
Certainly.
continued to tour and all back in this part of the country. He would come from time to time and appear on the Grand Ole Opry again, where he was a member,
Yes.
for many, many years. So it wasn't like he burned his bridges here. I mean, he certainly kept all his doors open.
Never burned a bridge behind him.
Yeah.
Everyone who knows Ray Price knows that he was always available to anyone. He was just a phone call away.
Yeah. Johnny Bush knows a whole lot about Ray Price. Johnny, great to have you here, man. We've been wanting to have you here in this circle for a long, long time. Now, didn't you start out as Ray's drummer?
I did, back in 1963. Some of the best times in my life as a road musician was with Ray Price, Buddy Emmons and Daryl McCall and Little Red Hayes and Keith Coleman and Wade Ray. And we had a lot of fun.
Did the band change members very often, or were those pretty much the guys that hung in there?
Pardon me?
No, I was asking, you mentioned those people. You mentioned Buddy, who's with us today. And Buddy, we're so glad you're
Buddy
here.
here?
We're gonna talk to you. Yeah, Buddy's here. Buddy's right over there. One of the great steel guitar players of all time. We're going to spend some time talking and visiting with Buddy.
I would like to, I tried to call him probably just a few days before he passed on, and I was talking to Janie, and I was conveying to her my feelings. She said, well, he's right here. He can talk to you. So he got on the phone, and I said, Ray, we all love you, and I love you, and you've always been like an uncle to me. He said, I ain't no damn kin to you, and don't you be telling people
Well, all you have to do is open your mouth to sing, and everybody knows you've heard a Ray Price song somewhere along the way. Did you intentionally develop your style, or do you think just because you were around Ray so much as his drummer that when you began singing, you kind of took after him?
that he had not only a great influence on me, but a lot of country singers, especially from Texas. And, not everything being relative, Ray Price started out, he was really in the Hank Williams band until he found his own. So when he went with a big band and all the strings and everything, and I got my first recording, I just took up the shuffle where that left off. But at that time I was doing it, nobody else was doing it, and I said, why not, But he was all for it. He encouraged me to do that.
That's good. You had a lot of vocal trouble, but you've put all that behind you now. You're back singing and performing.
We'll know today.
Get your guitar and come up here and sing one of those great Johnny Bush and Ray Price songs. Because my goodness, He can certainly sound like Ray.
Yes, he can. And Ray loved Johnny Bush.
Did Ray take it as a compliment?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, he should.
Of course. That was they joked all the time.
Well, you know, Bill, I have a theory. I have a theory that any male country singer who can look at you and say that they've ever heard Mr. Price on the radio or a record and go, "Don't look so sad, we know it's over," and haven't tried to sing it exactly like, is a liar. Every time you ever heard that, you sang it with him and tried to sing it like him. Nobody can do it. This man's pretty close right here.
I said we're doing these kind of in chronological order. This was one of Ray's big hits in the early to mid-'50s, written by a member of Ernest Tubbs' band named Rusty Gabbard.
Rusty Gabbard, yeah. I was on the plane coming from San Antonio, landing in Dallas, and I was coming to Dallas to record, Nashville to record, and I'd always liked the song, and Ray was putting his son on the plane to take back to Nashville. And all of a sudden I thought, I'll Be There would be a good song to do, because I think he had it about 1953 or 54. I thought it was time to do it again. And I recorded it for Stop Records, but Stop Records leased it to Million Records. And they released a single off the album, and I got such great airplay with it that it held up my first RCA single for about 6 months. So it was a good song for me, and I still do it. Along with City Lights, I still do it every night.
That's right, you did do City Lights, and I love you for it. Thank you.
There ain't no chain strong enough to hold me. There ain't no breeze big enough to slow me. I never have seen a river that's too wide. There ain't no jail tight enough to lock me. There ain't no man big enough to stop me. I'll be there if you ever want me by your side. Oh, love me if you're ever gonna love me. Never have seen a road too rough to ride. Ain't no jail tight enough to lock me. There ain't no man big enough to stop me. I'll be there if you ever want me by your side. Sounds like Texas. Honey, and you find me in your time. You're ready with your charm. I'll be there, ready and waiting. There won't be any hesitating. I'll be there if you ever want me by your side. Oh, love me if you're ever gonna love me. Never have seen a road too rough to ride. And I'll be there, ready and waiting. There won't be any hesitating. I'll be there if you ever want me by your side. I'll be there if you ever want me by your side.
Johnny Bush, bringing back a lot of memories with that song. Johnny, thank you very much. You mentioned that the band...
Hey, don't forget, there's a store down below. You can get Country's Family Reunion and Larry's Country Diner stuff.
You mentioned that the band sounded a lot like Texas. We've got an additional member up there in honor of Ray's great music with the twin fiddles. We don't normally have twin fiddles, but Hoot Hester has joined us here today along with Hank Singer playing twin fiddles. Of course, for years, Hoot was the fiddle player, staff fiddle player in the Grand Ole Opry. Man, I got to share I told Hoot this yesterday. I got to share an email with you I got this week from somebody who said, the Grand Ole Opry band is not the same since Toot's not playing fiddle anymore. Good to have you, Toot. That twin fiddle sound, a big fiddle sound, of course, Ray took it on from being that to the big orchestras and all, but that was a big part of particularly his early sound.
Yes, he loved the old sound. He never stopped wanting to play it, and he did play it in nearly every show that he did. He did a segment of that.
He usually opened his show. I know he would open with San Antonio Rose, and then he'd do like Crazy Arms and Heartaches by the Number and some of before he got into some of the real smooth things.
Yes.
Of course, it wasn't just the guys that sang Ray Price songs. The gals did too. And we've got one of the best here with us today to sing a song that Ray Price made famous. Former CMA Vocalist of the Year. Oh. I think probably more than once, weren't you?
Maybe so. Don't ask me.
Miss Janie Fricky.
Thank
Janie, good to see you. Good to have you here.
Buddy.
Did you were a background singer before you became
Yes.
a featured artist. Did you ever sing background on
I
any
tell
of Ray's
everybody
records?
I was a studio technician because thinking of all the studio musicians, and by the way, it's great working with this fabulous orchestra today, super band, and singers. But yes, I never dreamed I'd be doing my own records. I was very happy doing studio
Did you
work.
ever sing background on a Ray Price record?
Never did, no. And how I wished I would have. But opening a concert for him was very special. And I remember my band and I were standing backstage just enthralled watching every bit of his show. We opened the show that night for him, somewhere maybe in Texas. I can't remember the town. But it was a thrill to work a show with Ray and to do a concert that night. But it's even a better thrill to be here with all of the familiar faces and all these great folks here today. So it's pretty much overwhelming.
What prompted you to
be
record
here.
Release Me?
I have not recorded Release Me.
Oh, I thought you had.
No,
I'm
they
sorry.
asked me to sing it today. I recorded Pride.
Oh, okay.
And I was talking to Janie. I think she's going to sing it today. But no, they asked me to sing this, and I'm thrilled to be able to sing it. This was written by Eddie Miller and the Oklahomans and W.S. Stevenson. Mm-hmm. And he said that the story about the song was he was getting ready to do his show, Eddie was, and he went up on stage. He heard a couple arguing next to the stage, and they were fighting. And at that time, in the 50s, the D word was not mentioned. It wasn't proper to talk about divorce. So she said, just please release me. Just let me go, and we can start our life over. And he went home that night and wrote the song. And it's true. I don't remember the divorce word was not mentioned in that era. It was a hush-hush thing. It was not proper. It wasn't talked about. And so... Release Me.
Well, this was one of Ray's early hits,
Yeah.
and then, of course, it became worldwide when Engelbert Humperdinck recorded
Yes.
it, and it became more than just a country song, a great pop song. Let's hear Janie Fricky's version of Release Me. Yeah.
Please release me, let me go. I don't want you anymore. To waste our lives would be a sin. So release me and let me love again. I have found a new love, dear, and I will always want him near. His lips are warm while yours are cold. So release me, my darling, let me go. Y'all playing now.
Janie Fricke, Release Me. Janie Price is here, and we're talking about the life and the music and the legacy of her longtime husband, Ray Price. Ray was born in 1926 and passed away in early
December 16th,
2000.
2013. I'm nervous, Bill. I am so nervous.
Honey, there's no need in the world for you to be nervous.
I'm regressing here.
No, you're doing great, and we're just awfully glad that you came here to share these, and I'm sure these are all memories
Yes.
for you.
The song, I'm sorry, I wanted to thank Janie Fricke. She came and gave of her time and was a part of the ceremony at Ray's funeral, and I wanted to thank her for that.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure to be
I
there.
doubt anybody in this room knew Ray any longer than our buddy with the old hat on over there, the Midnight Cowboy, the Satellite Cowboy, great disc jockey for many years, our friend Mr. Bill Mack. Bill, when did you first meet Ray?
Wait a minute. I tell you what I have to do. I've got to change. If you don't mind, I got to put on my cap. By the way, you notice my hair is a different color than the last time I was here? Cindy forgot to bring the Just for Men. I would have been a redhead out here.
Oh, look what he's wearing.
Oh, you got the Ray
look.
Price hat on there.
that's
All
it.
right, you're in the spirit.
And I brought you one. Now, we have to pay. You got to pay for it, but I got you one. No.
When did you first meet Ray?
I met Ray Price in the 50s when I first started out in broadcasting. He has just turned out, he had a song out there, Weary Blues from Waiting. And he had what I call Hey Lala. And every time I would play, you know, remember Hey Lala?
Yeah.
He hated that song. But I had beautiful Janie there, invited me to speak at his memorial service and also at his farewell service. And I honestly cannot, to this day, believe the man is gone. What a diversified voice. What a great, and what a great man, a funny man. He was funny. But when it came to singing a song, and when it came to taking inventory of friends, not just to me, but to everybody he met, he was one of a kind.
Well, with him moving back to Texas and you being based in Texas, you probably saw as much or more of him than any of us did.
Yeah, he would drive, you know, he would come over to see Cindy and me, beautiful Cindy and me at our house. And I had my studio in the house too, of course. And he'd always come over in the bus. He had the bus driver. He drove all the way from his home, I guess about 2.5 hour drive, and he'd come over in the bus. And I said, why don't you just drive over and bring Janie over here and you guys? He said, oh, I like to let the bus drive me over and I just lay back and relax. But he was so great. I'll tell you a little story. It's around Christmas time. And I was doing the all-night radio show. I've never done a daytime show. And I did when it was either early morning or late at night or all night long. And he came by and he brought me a record. He said, I want you to play this. And I said, what is it? He said, I just want you to play it. I said, I need to listen to it first. He said, no, just put it on. Well, we were on the air when he said it, so he put me in a spot. So I said, okay, so I just put it on. It was a 45 RPM, I guess it was 1970 or 1971. And it's a Christmas present. He had recorded Drinking Champagne.
Which you wrote.
And I was shocked, and I'll tell you to this day, nobody ever outdid Ray Price on that version of this. It was not one of his better sellers, but boy, great.
Nice Christmas present for Bill Mack. Daryl McCall, you knew Ray Price for a whole lot of years and were part of his band. Were you in the band when Johnny Bush was there?
Yes, I was. I sure was, Bill. I go back to probably 1961 with Ray. As a matter of fact, I always said that Ray kind of saved my life at that particular time because I had been working with Farron and Hubert Long was booking me and I had a record in the charts. And there was a guy in Kansas City named Cactus Jack that had passed away. And so Patsy Cline and I and a bunch of us were going to fly over to Kansas City in the plane. And right at the last minute, Ray called me and asked me if I'd like to go to work in front of his Cherokee Cowboys. And I said, I've always wanted to be a Cherokee Cowboy, especially because my buddy was there, you know, at the Big E. And so I went to work with Ray. And if you remember right, buddy, Ray called us and he said, meet me at the airport. We're going to take my little plane and fly to Washington State. Remember?
No.
I knew you wouldn't remember.
Yeah, it must have been a different Buddy Emmett.
It was, at the time it was. But anyway, Ray got his plane out. He had a little Piper Aztec, and our pilot was Keith Bandy. I think you might have known him, didn't you, Bill? And he flew us to Denver, Colorado. We fueled up, went on into Washington State. And on the way back, we were listening to a ground radio station, and it came across the radio in the plane that they were down. So that I always contributed Ray to kind of saving my tail, but there's nobody in the world I'd rather worked with than the great Ray Price. Ray, my opinion of Ray was he was country with class. He had the class to go with it. He wasn't a redneck, you know, it was a good, and I love that kind of music.
Okay, now you played bass in the band?
I played bass and fronted and sung harmony with Ray.
Okay, now was this was after Van Howard had been with him?
Yes, it
for all of
was.
those years. Now that's pretty big shoes to fill because Van
I
Howard was
know it.
as good a tenor singer and could phrase right
Yes, he
with
did.
Ray.
Yes.
So you were filling pretty big shoes.
Oh, I know it. But I had fun doing it. I was, at the time, I wasn't very old, and I was with the guys that I wanted to pick with, you know, the Big E and Tommy Jackson and Shorty Lavender, people like that. And I was right in my element as far as picking. And, of course, the cherry on top of it was the great Ray Price. I was proud to wear them eagle feathers and them rhinestone suits. I still think it's the greatest music in the world. And I don't think his voice will ever be topped.
Amen.
You may very well be right. Janie, I've got to ask you a question because he opened up something there. I know in his later years, Eddie Arnold did not particularly like to be called the Tennessee Plowboy. They dubbed him the Tennessee Plowboy early in his career. What did Ray think about being called the Cherokee Cowboy?
Well, he loved it.
He never tried to stop it? Get
No,
anybody
absolutely not. He was so proud of those days.
Now, was he part Cherokee?
Yes. His grandmother on his dad's side was Sarah Mahuska, and so he definitely did have Indian blood in him.
But even though he quit wearing the fancy clothes and the rhinestones and the headdress and this type of thing, he never once resented.
Oh,
being
no.
That's good to hear.
Ray
I didn't
Price
know
was
that.
a country boy.
Absolutely.
He never stopped being a country boy.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to
Ray's
know that.
mother had a huge, his mother was a fashion designer, and his stepfather, Mr. Dominic Samini, which most people never heard of Mr. Samini much, and no one really never talked about him. But Mr. Samini immigrated from Italy on a boat back in the 40s. And Ray's mom and dad divorced when he was around 5 years old, and she moved to Dallas with him, and she went to work in the sewing factory, and she tells this wonderful story. I loved his mother, that it was one of those sewing machines that had 12 needles, and she became a master pattern maker. And back in those days, that was when one person made one pattern, and as all of us girls know, that's very important. They don't do that anymore for clothes. She designed size 4, size 6, size 8. She actually measured and made those mannequins. And from her patterns, from her mannequins, then the clothing designers would come in, and that's how they would fit the clothes, and you got your perfect size clothes back then. She made suits, the most beautiful suits you've ever seen. She made all of her own clothes. Well, she also sewed Ray's clothes. In the beginning, she made the very first shirts we've ever seen of him. I don't know if we have any on our display, but she actually handmade those suits for Ray when he first came to Nashville and met Hank Williams, and the first ones he wore on the Grand Ole Opry. But back to his dad, I'm sorry, Ray said, Eddie Stubbs gave me some advice. Eddie said, Janie, focus, don't ramble. And as so many people know, I have 43 years with this man, and it's hard to go back and pinpoint exactly what and stay on focus. You guys got to help me. Okay. And so Mr. Samini was a fashion designer himself, and he had his own line of clothes in Neiman Marcus at the time. And so he interviewed Ray's mother for us as a seamstress. And so the story she tells was that she walked in there and she said, I saw those 12 needles in that sewing machine and I was terrified. But she said, I was starving to death. I had to have a job. And so she said, I sat down at that table with this machine in front of me, and she said, this good-looking Italian man came over and said, well, Clara, have you had experience on this machine? And she said, why, yes, I have. And so he said, well, show me what you can do. And so she said she pulled that wheel, and those needles started going up and down. And she said that the material started doing all of this. And she and Mr. Samini apparently had the same sort of a meeting that Ray and I had. He told her, he said, if you've got the nerve enough to tell me you can sew on this machine, I've got nerve enough to train you. And so that's how she met Mr. Samini. And they fell in love, and so she got married. And Mr. Samini was very dignified. He was a completely different type of man than Ray's father. Ray's father, Walter Price, was a wonderful, wonderful person. Ray loved his dad. He loved his dad so much. He loved both of his parents. But his dad was so special. But he told me that Mr. Samini is the one who actually sent him to voice school, and he was taught violin at a young age when he was in his preteens and right before he went into the Marines. And so he said that Mr. Samini said after he came to Nashville and he became the star that he has started out to be a star, Mr. Samini, someone asked him about how he felt about Ray being a country music singer. And he said, in his broken English, he said, I can't do this as well as his mother, but he said, I send my son to school to learn to sing the opera, and he ends up singing the Grand Ole Opry.
Well, he certainly made the right choice. Ray did. Daryl McCall, how about a good Ray Price song from you? I know you know a whole bunch of them. And I happen to know the one that you're going to sing, and I was doing a little bit of research just to check it out. In the mid-1950s, when this song was a big hit, this song did something everybody in this room will be amazed, because there's no songs that do this today. This song stayed on the charts for 32 weeks, and it stayed at number one for most of those 32 weeks. And it was one of the great signature songs, and I guess probably the first song that we began to call the shuffle songs that became the trademark of the great Ray Price. And Daryl McCall, you've sung treble on this with Ray a few times.
I sure have. This has always been one of my favorite songs, and I'm honored to be singing it today. And you're right, I think it did start the 4/4 shuffle thing, Bill. It goes like this, called Crazy Arms. You ready?
Yeah.
Storms brewing in this heart of mine. This ain't no crazy dream, I know that it's real. You're someone else's love now, you're not mine. Crazy arms that reach to hold somebody new. My yearning heart keeps saying you're not mine. My troubled mind knows soon to another you'll be with, and that's why I'm lonely all the time. me and take all the love I thought was mine. Someday my crazy arms will hold somebody new, but now I'm so lonely all the time. Crazy arms that reach to hold somebody new.